I never thought my life would turn out this way. I had dreams, big dreams, like every young girl does. I wanted to become a nurse, wear that white uniform, and help people feel better. But life didn't ask me what I wanted. It just happened. When my father died, everything fell apart. Mama cried every night, her voice shaking like the wind through an old window. My younger brothers, Chinedu and Emeka, looked at me with hungry eyes, their bellies empty more often than not. Mama tried to sell firewood, but people stopped buying. Her health worsened, and soon she couldn't leave the house. I tried everything, cleaning houses, selling oranges at the market, even washing clothes for rich people. But no matter how hard I worked, it was never enough. The landlord kept knocking, his voice like thunder, warning us we would be thrown out. One day, I sat under the old mango tree behind our house, tears streaming down my face. That's when Amoka came. She was an old schoolmate, always dressed well, always with money. She sat beside me, her perfume heavy in the air, and said, "Ada, you don't have to suffer like this. There's a way out." I listened, though my heart screamed for me to stop. I didn't say yes that day. I didn't say no either. Amoka's words stayed in my mind like a stubborn stain. "You'll make enough to pay rent, feed your brothers, and get Mama the medicine she needs," she said. She made it sound so simple, like stepping into another room. But it wasn't simple. That night, as my brother slept on the mat beside Mama's bed, I sat by the window, staring at the moon. I thought about the neighbors who already looked at us like we didn't belong, their whispers like knives. What would they say if they found out? But I also thought about Chinedu crying because he hadn't eaten all day. About Mama coughing so hard her body shook. The next morning, I went to Amoka. The first time was the hardest. I stood there, trembling, my heart racing like it would burst out of my chest. The man didn't even look at me properly. To him, I wasn't Ada, the girl who loved to sing at church or braid her friend's hair. I was just a body. Afterward, I ran to the bathroom, scrubbing myself until my skin turned red. I wanted to scream, but I bit my lips so hard they bled. I thought I'd never do it again. But then I saw the money in my hand, more than I'd ever held in my life. I went home with food that day, rice, beans, and even a little meat. Chinedu and Emeka's faces lit up. Mama smiled, her pale lips trembling. "God bless you, my daughter," she said, not knowing what I had done. The shame stayed, but so did the money. Days turned into weeks. I became what they call used to it. I stopped crying every time and told myself it was just for a while. Just until we were okay. But people noticed things. They noticed I always had money now, even though I didn't have a real job. The whispers began again, louder this time. Amoka told me to ignore them, but the stares burned through me like fire. One day, Mama asked, "Ada, how are you managing to do all this? You're too young to carry such a burden." Her eyes were soft, filled with worry and love. I lied. I told her I'd found a cleaning job in the city. She smiled, but something in her eyes said she didn't believe me. Then came the first warning. A man, angry because I didn't agree to everything he wanted, grabbed me by the arm and said, "You regret this." I laughed it off when I told Amoka, but deep down, I felt cold. I told myself I could stop anytime. But the truth was, I couldn't. Not yet. Mama needed medicine, and the boys needed school fees. Every time I thought about quitting, I heard their laughter when they ate the food I brought home. I saw Mama's health improving bit by bit. And so, I stayed. I continued living in that quiet storm. Each day felt like a new battle, and each night I would lie awake, listening to the soft breaths of my brothers and the wheeze of Momo's cough. I told myself it was just for now, just for them. But somewhere deep inside, I knew it was becoming something more, something I couldn't undo. One evening, after I had handed over the rent money and bought fresh vegetables, something in me snapped. I had been walking home when I saw a child, no older than Chinedu, sitting on the ground, tears in his eyes, begging for food. The pain in his face tore through me like a razor. I stood there frozen. His empty eyes reminded me of the desperation in my own heart, the fear that I had become no better than the world I was trying to escape. I wanted to run away, to scream, but instead, I kept walking, my head lowered in shame. That night, as I tucked my brothers into bed, I felt a weight on my chest that I couldn't shake off. And then, it happened. I was called by a man who had always been gentle, always polite. But this time, his voice had a darker edge to it, one that sent chills down my spine. "You're coming with me tonight, Ada," he said. "I have plans for you." I froze. Something told me I wasn't going to walk out of this one the same way.